Hi, it's Quinn. Today I'm going to talk a bit about divination and how I use it pardon me, how I use it in my practice. So, the forms of divination that I use, and I'm still, of course, going to be a student forever in these forms of divination, are card divination. I use tarot and Lenormand. I also use oracle cards, but not as frequently as tarot and Lenormand. I use pendulum divination. Sorry, I have allergies. I use pendulum divination in order to kind of communicate with higher spirits and ask advice. And then I also use meditation, spirit communication, which has been very productive when I'm on my game. That's something to talk about also, but I think I've mentioned in a previous video that lately I haven't been on my game, but it's because I've been a little stressed, and even with meditation, my mind has been preoccupied, but that's a different story for something else. But yeah, I use those forms of divination, and so far I am a big fan of divination. I'd say it's my passion as far as witchy pursuits go. Now, first off, I'll talk about pendulum divination and kind of go through them, because my favorite is beyond even spirit communication. It's tied. I'd say spirit communication through meditation is my favorite, tied with tarot and Lenormand. But so I'll do those one second. My not as favorite one is pendulum divination, and the reason for that is I have had great success with getting answers for the most part. I mean, almost every time that I call out and ask for guidance and answers to questions, I do get responses, pretty clear responses. But sometimes I don't. And I really put that on myself. I don't think it's because my guiding spirits and higher spirits that I call upon are not available. I think it's because sometimes, as with my meditative spirit communication, sometimes my head isn't in the right place to do this kind of communication. I think sometimes I'm distracted, and that my questions are fuzzy, and that my ability to receive answers is like I'm more closed than I should be. And so sometimes I'll get very small movements of the pendulum, so small that you could interpret it as just kind of not a movement at all. But that's not why it's not my favorite. The reason it's not my favorite is because you get yes, no answers. There really is, it's a black and white sort of art, and I guess I just am not a big fan of that. I mean, there are other black and white sorts of divination forms, like bibliomancy, for example. Well, it can be, but I guess I'm just not a big fan. But I do it, and I have 2 pendulums to prove it. I don't know why I collect things in excess. I don't know why I needed 2 pendulums, but I have 2. Doesn't everyone have 2 pendulums? Maybe, I don't know. But, I just don't use it as often because it isn't, when I first started practicing divination, I was like asking every question I could think of because I was just so fascinated and absorbed with the process. But now I don't really have as many yes or no questions that I ask. I think I read in a, what magazine was it? I read in a recent issue of a witchy magazine, and I'm going to try to remember what it is, but this issue for March is on tarot and divination. And the editor's letter mentions that when she first started divination, she started it as many people do. You get all gung-ho about trying to peer into your future, and that's really not what using these tools are for. Not really. I know that a lot of people come to them for that sort of reason, but I really think that it's more about getting guidance and getting pointed in the right direction so that your own journey can have better information to work with. And just the process of going through divination practices and really focusing, even partially focusing on trying to get an answer for something, gets your subconscious working, gets your whole mind focused on that question, which, let's be honest, how often do we do that in this busy world? You know, we're always like looking for answers with Google, or like seeing if we can find something through Tumblr, like, didn't I see a post about this? You know, but really it's, each answer needs to be specific to you, right? It needs to, at least I feel that way. I feel like when you're seeking answers for yourself, not for other people. Really, not, I mean, you can ask divination questions on behalf of other people, but you know, I'm just trying to talk about it more in the holistic self-application sort of way. And so, yeah, pendulum divination to me isn't as meaty. It doesn't really get to the heart of what I need. So how I use pendulums now, that I've been practicing for a little bit, is I use them as a supplement to my meditative spirit communication, to get yes or no's, just extra verification on things that I'm a little fuzzy about, which takes me into that. So I've talked quite a bit in a couple of other videos about spirit communication and how I do it. Recently I've been having some issues. I think I've been preoccupied. My mind has been split rather than being able to focus. So it's easy for me to get into a meditative state, but then once I try to change the channel just a little bit on my meditative state, is how I describe it, so that I can basically direct my meditation more to get, rather than just being in the blank wall kind of meditation, pulling out information, asking questions of the spirits is just how you do it. I get a little less focused at that point and I start losing my meditation. It takes me so long to get to this point where I can actually sense any responses at all. And I've become really impatient with it because I had more focus before, and now my mind has been kind of split a little bit by some of my stresses from, things that are going on in my mundane life. And I'm not loving that at the moment, but I know this is just something that I need to work on. And what happens is when I do hear, so to speak, in my mind's ear, if that's my mind's ear, I don't know, there's a mind's eye, so maybe there's a mind's ear. In my mind's ear, I do get messages. I do hear little bits. It's like a radio that's not quite in tune on the channel that you're looking for, or like if you're in the desert or something and it kind of goes out of, this is something one would do in LA anyway. It's the farther you get away from the radio tower, the more garbled and kind of cutting in and out it gets based on how many hills or whatever are in between you. And that's how it feels when I'm doing my spirit meditation lately, and that's a bummer. And so I do use pendulums to kind of try and narrow down who am I talking to? I'm is your name this? And then I'll use the pendulum and it'll be no. I'll get no, that's not my name. And I'm shit. I really can't tell what your name is. And so, that's been my situation lately, and that's kind of a bummer. But something I'm not having trouble with is tarot and Lenormand. I've been having continued success, and even with intuitive issues where I do lose a little bit of focus, generally my readings have, for other people, been super spot on, which I'm so blessed to have that ability to use my intuition in that way. And I'm not trying to brag, but I'm just, God, I sound like a douche. Oh, I can't believe I just said that. That's even worse. All right, back to what I was saying. I feel a certain amount of pride in my ability to read the cards, and while I will always be a student of it, I think that this is my tarot and Lenormand are my strongest arts that I practice, and that it stays that way, although of course I want to diversify and become good at everything because I'm ridiculous. But yeah, like I love the answers. I love chewing into the cards and really thinking about what they mean to me. In fact, I'm going to do another video in my Tumbling Through Tarot series, in which I'm going to cover the twos, because I did aces last time, and this is really a project for myself more than for other people. It's just me talking through my interpretations of the meanings of the cards. But yeah, I'm like so passionate about card reading, and I love it. I really love it, and I love focusing on just sometimes one question and really picking it apart and teasing out all the little bits and the different aspects to it. You know, some people, they do, rather than doing card divination just in a mundane sense, they'll do kind of like those little bubbles where you like write the topic in the middle, and then you branch out and create, you know, brainstorm side little things that connect to that, and then you brainstorm little side things that connect to those things, you know, and then you basically create a visual map of the topic. And tarot is like a much deeper way of doing that, way deeper. There's so many free association things that you can intuitively pull out for every single card in each house, in whether it's reversed or not, you know, like there's so many things you can do. I just love it so much. And Lenormand, you know, has really been so accurate. Like so many things have come to pass just in the short period of time that I've been doing Lenormand, and I just am blown away. I'm continually blown away. I'm going to say that I don't know why my connection is so strong to that form of card divination, but it is. I love it, and I'm going to keep at it. I just want to share it with everyone. And like, I can't find enough people to do readings for. So, you know, I am offering it in my shop, but, you know, so far, not really any nibbles. But I hope to be able to share that form of card divination with more people in the future. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much all I have to say about the forms of divination that I do. I guess if I'm going to add one more thing, it would be that I think divination should not be taken lightly. I think it's important to ask the questions you want to get the answers to in a very clear and precise way, like to really mull on exactly how you're going to word it in order to get the answer that the answer that gives you the most help. I find that even with Lenormand, that the very specific wording and intention behind your wording is so important. It's so specific that sometimes I get muddled answers, and so I have to re-ask it in a more precise way, and then I'll get a clear answer. And so I guess I would just say that don't take it lightly. Don't think, here's a random little vague question. Like, be all in and put in a very precise question, and be focused from the moment you ask that question through every reading of every card, and then you'll get the very most out of it. That's what I'm finding that if I ever slack in any area of it, if I just kind of half-heartedly, I'm like, oh, well, let's flip over these cards and see what's going on today, like if I'm not completely present for reading even a daily read, I can't get much out of it. I really can't. It's just, maybe that's just me, maybe everyone else is able to just kind of always draw immediate meanings and so be like, yep, this, that, and that. I'm very intuitive, and while I touch upon the symbolism and the numbers and all of the different usual interpretations of the cards, intuitive reading is where I get the really good stuff. And so yeah, that would be my advice if a newbie can give advice to people, is just to be very diligent about how you approach any form of divination, be it pendulum reading or scrying with the crystal ball, which I would love to try. I would love, love, love to try that, but I just don't have a crystal ball yet. But yeah, so there's my post for today. See you tomorrow with the Tumbling Through Tarot 2s. Blessed be.